Hello everyone, JD here. This week I wanted to take a moment to talk about something really important to us as a charity, and that's independence. We're always looking at ways to help you feel more confident in your day-to-day lives, not just when someone is there to support you, but when you're out and about on your own. One of the ways we're doing that is through our Hello Everyone QR code initiative. The idea is simple. You scan a code and hear clear information about your surroundings, helping you to navigate spaces more safely and confidently. I also just wanted to acknowledge the current road closures around the island. I know it's been causing some disruption for you all, and I really hope that it hasn't affected you too much while you're trying to get out and about and attending sessions, but please do let us know if you're having any difficulties in particular. We always do our best to support where we can. We're also continuing our plans for the months ahead. We are trying to develop more opportunities for you to get active and out and about more, engaging in a range of different fun and creative sessions as we get into the warmer summer months. And as always, thank you for being a part of Sight for White, and I look forward to seeing many of you again very soon.
Week's charity news for the 24th of April 2026. Swimming at Medina is on Monday between 1:15pm and 2pm. We have the whole pool, so whether you wish to swim, lanes, or just have gentle exercise in the pool, you will be made very welcome. The cost is £6 and transport is available, although limited. All members are very welcome to join.
Tandem biking is now on a Tuesday along the Cows cycle track. If you would like to go on a tandem, please do not hesitate to call the office and we can arrange a suitable time.
Coffee and chat is on Wednesday, starting at 10am until 11:30am. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment. Also, at 11 o'clock, we have our catch-up feedback session. This is an opportunity to let us know your views on our services and any activities or things you would like us to do for you. Please come along, but if you are unable to, please feel free to call the office and let us know your views so we can discuss at the meeting.
Wednesday is a busy day here at Millbrook because we also have Vision Aid in with their stand displaying their products on offer. They will be here between 10am and 2pm, so come along and try new technology.
Mix and Mingle is on Thursday at Millbrook House. This group enjoys crafts, quizzes and entertainment. If you would like to put your name down on the list, please call the office.
Next Saturday, the 4th of May, we will once again be holding our village market at Chillerton Village Hall starting at 10am. We will be serving homemade cake, coffee and holding a raffle. Please come along and support the charity.
We've been invited to the Royal Victoria Yacht Club's Disabilities Sailing Day on July the 18th. Between 11am and 4:30pm. Spaces are limited, and if oversubscribed, a ballot will be held. Please call the office if you are interested and would like more details.
We're busy planning our Christmas in July event on the 4th of July. We are appealing for good bric-a-brac, tombola prizes, jigsaws, books, raffle prizes and any Christmas decorations. If you have any donations, please drop them off at Millbrook House, or if you can't, please call the office and we can arrange collection.
Thank you to everyone who came and supported the pudding and quiz last Friday. We raised £185, which is an amazing amount. We would also like to thank the volunteers who kindly provide the wide variety of puddings. And finally, congratulations go to the winner team of Viv, Liz and Sandra.
This is an urgent appeal to anyone you may know that could drive our minibus. We are in desperate need for volunteers to drive it, especially on a Thursday afternoon. If you have a neighbour, friend, relation who may be interested, please ask them to call the office and speak to Susan.
Hello, this is an article read by Sue from the Island Echo. Safety and care concerns sees Isle of Wight care home downgraded to inadequate. The Care Quality Commission, the CQC, has downgraded the rating for Orchard House Care Centre on the Isle of Wight from good to inadequate following an inspection in February. Orchard House Care Centre is a residential care home run by Barchester Healthcare Homes Limited. CQC carried out the inspection after receiving concerns about people's care and support, risk management, escalation of health deterioration, and leadership and staff culture. Inspectors found the home was in breach of 7 regulations covering person-centred care, dignity and respect, consent and staffing. CQC has also asked Orchard House Care Centre for an action plan setting out how it will address concerns in these 4 areas. For 3 of these breaches, CQC has served 3 warning notices to the service to focus the attention of leaders on providing safe care and treatment, safeguarding and good management to the service. CQC has rated Orchard House Care Centre inadequate for being safe and effective. Caring, responsive and well-led have all been rated requires improvement. Neil Cox, CQC's Deputy Director of Operations in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, said, "When we inspected Orchard House Care Centre, we found leaders didn't have a firm enough grip on what was happening in the home, and that had a direct impact on the people living there. Inspectors saw residents left exposed and undignified with their clothing displaced in communal areas, people calling out in distress who were ignored or met with dismissive responses. One person had written 'help' on their bedroom wall and told inspectors they were frightened. No one should ever feel afraid in their own home. Residents weren't always getting enough food and fluids. One person told our inspector they were hungry and thirsty, and records showed they received less than half the recommended fluid intake they required by late evening. Another person lost nearly 3 kilograms over 4 months, as staff weren't monitoring their nutritional intake or fortifying their meals with the calories they needed to stay healthy. Safety systems that should have protected people weren't working. Safeguarding concerns weren't always reported to the local authority, and we raised those issues directly with them after the inspection. Medicines were left unsecured, and emergency documents didn't always accurately reflect people's allergies, which could have led to serious harm. We did see some positive things. Some staff clearly knew the people they cared for well, and relatives described kind and supportive care at times. But those good moments weren't consistent enough, and that inconsistency comes down to leadership. We've told Orchard House Care Centre what it must improve, and we'll continue to monitor it closely to make sure people are kept safe. Inspectors found leaders didn't consistently identify or act on safeguarding concerns. 3 staff members told inspectors they had reported alleged abuse, but managers had not recorded these on the safeguarding tracker or notified the local authority, leaving people at risk. Staff left medicines unsecured with the medicine room unlocked and a medicine trolley unattended in a corridor with a key in the lock, increasing the risk of misuse or harm. Staff did not ensure people's physical health was monitored and escalated when they were showing signs they were unwell. Staff did not respond respectively to people in distress and sometimes dismissed their concerns, even mimicking a resident's vocabulary while they were upset. Staff did not consistently treat people with dignity, leaving some exposed in communal areas. However, inspectors also found some relatives described Orchard House Care Centre as supportive and kind, particularly during difficult transition into the home. Staff adapted their communication using pictorial aids and body language to support residents with cognitive or language barriers, and information was available in a range of accessibility. The report will be published on CQC's website in the coming days.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Isle of Wight ranks among worst in South East as employment declines. The number of employees on payroll on the Isle of Wight has fallen by 0.6% year on year, new data reveals. According to the latest data for March 2026, payroll numbers decreased by 35 to 52,293, suggesting continued pressure on jobs across the island. Overall, employment remains lower than a year ago, with the headcount down by 299, equivalent to a 0.6% decline year on year. The figures are based on an analysis of the latest Office for National Statistics payroll data by employment and pay app Wage Site. Compared with other towns and cities in the southeast, the Isle of Wight ranks 18th out of 21, placing it among the weakest performers for employment change. The trend locally reflects a mixed picture across the wider southeast, with some areas seeing improvements, while others continue to experience pressure on payroll numbers. Nationally, employment levels have also shown a mixed trend, creating a challenging backdrop. Paul Hebden, Wage Site Director, has said, "The latest figures underline the continued pressure on employment in the Isle of Wight. Payroll remains down compared with last year, and recent month-on-month data suggests employers are still cutting back. It remains unclear whether the recent changes signal the start of a longer-term shift or a temporary fluctuation."
Emergency Department sees busiest day of the year so far, from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Joyce. The Isle of Wight's Emergency Department experienced its busiest day of the year so far earlier this week. On Monday, April 20th, a total of 255 patients attended for care, one of the highest numbers ever recorded by teams on the island. Despite the high demand, health officials say a number of people arrived with conditions that could have been treated outside of a hospital setting. These included minor infections such as conjunctivitis, dressing changes, and ongoing long-term health issues. The Trust is now reminding residents to consider alternative services for urgent, non-life-threatening conditions to help ensure emergency care remains available for those who need it most. Robin Beale, clinical lead for the Emergency Department, said the service must remain focused on serious and life-threatening cases. He said, "Our emergency department is always available for people facing life-threatening injuries and illnesses. To ensure we can treat those patients quickly, we need the public's help in choosing the right service for their needs." He added that community pharmacies, GP practices, and NHS 111 can all provide support for many urgent and ongoing conditions. Pharmacies can also supply medication for a range of common illnesses without the need for a GP appointment, including earache, sore throat, urinary tract infections, impetigo, sinusitis, shingles, and infected insect bites. They can also direct patients to other appropriate services if needed. Medical Director Steve Parker said, "Teams are continuing to work hard to ensure hospital beds are available for those who need them, while also supporting patients to leave hospital safely when they are ready." He is urging friends and family members to help by planning ahead for patient discharges, including collecting loved ones promptly and ensuring they can travel home comfortably. Residents who are unsure which service to use are encouraged to visit the Isle of Wight NHS Trust website for guidance on where to go for care.
Hello, this is an article read by Sue from the Isle of Wight Radio. Plans for 19 homes near Newport reopened for consultation after opposition. A major development could see at least 19 homes built on the outskirts of the Isle of Wight's county town. Gallant Green's hybrid plans for housing south of Forest Road, Newport, with associated access and infrastructure, as well as a garage demolition proposal, have been re-advertised. The scheme, which also includes an outline application for residential development, including means of access and open space, relates to land west of Hornbeam Close, the Willows, Aspin Close and north of Sylvan Drive. There has previously been significant opposition to proposed development at the site, including from Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council and County Councillors Ray Redrup and Joe Lever. The council was told of concerns such as a negative impact on public rights of ways, a lack of affordable housing, harm to wildlife habitats, flood risk, disquiet over increased traffic and sewage overcapacity. Gallant Green's agent, BCM, said 7 of the homes included in the application already have consent in a recent letter to planners. A submitted ecological impact assessment from E3S Consulting on Gallant Green's behalf, meanwhile, said the proposal will not have a negative impact on the site and its surrounding habitats, species or ecosystems. It would instead provide opportunities to ecological enhance the site for the benefit of wildlife, the document said. County Hall's public consultation on application 23/01410/FUL is live until May the 18th. A final decision date has not yet been publicised.
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. Island e-scooter trial extended as council backs new contract. The Isle of Wight's e-scooter scheme is set to continue until at least 2028, after the council approved an extension to both the trial and its operator contract. A decision signed off by the Service Director for Highways and Community Protection confirms the island will remain part of the government-backed rental e-scooter trials, which have now been extended for a 5th time. The scheme, first introduced on the Isle of Wight in November 2020, has grown steadily in popularity, with more than 150,000 rides recorded by April of last year. E-bikes were later added in 2022, with operator Voi, that's VOI, taking over the running of both services in 2024. Under the new decision, the Council will look to extend its current contract with Voi beyond June 2026, ensuring the continued rollout of scooters and bikes across the island. Transport bosses say the trial is playing a key role in shaping the future of travel, not just locally, but nationally. Data collected is being used by the Department for Transport to understand safety, public opinion, environmental impact, and how e-scooters fit into everyday journeys. Only rental e-scooters that are part of the official trial remain legal to use on public roads, with privately owned scooters still banned. The Council says the scheme supports its wider transport goals, including reducing reliance on cars, cutting emissions, and improving access to affordable travel, particularly for lower-income households. Further expansion is expected in the coming months, with additional vehicles planned for both spring and summer, as demand continues to rise. Despite government funding for the wider Solent Transport programme coming to an end, the Isle of Wight scheme remains fully funded for now, with future investment to be reviewed later this year. Officials say continuing the trial is vital, giving the island a chance to showcase how micromobility can work in a rural setting, while helping to shape future legislation.
New promo film to lead Visit Isle of Wight's 226 tourism push from the Island Echo, read by Joyce. Visit Isle of Wight has launched a new flagship promotional film designed to reshape how the island is marketed to potential visitors in 2026. The new, quote, hero, quote, video has been created to move beyond traditional destination marketing, instead focusing on the atmosphere, emotion, and overall experience of visiting the Isle of Wight. Featuring the island's coastline, countryside, and range of visitor experiences, the film aims to capture what makes the Isle of Wight unique. From peaceful moments by the sea to its broader natural, cultural, and tourism offer. Visit the Isle of Wight says the launch marks part of a wider repositioning of the island's brand, highlighting its appeal as a self-contained destination with a wide variety of landscapes and experiences all in one place. Dominic Ray, CEO of Visit Isle of Wight, has said, "This is about telling a natural and more confident story. The island itself is what is truly special, its natural beauty and energy. This film helps us express that in a way that feels true to the place." The film is to be used across digital advertising campaigns, social media, PR activity, and partner platforms throughout 2026. Local tourism businesses and other partners are now being encouraged to support the campaign by sharing the video and aligning with its wider messaging. The new film can be viewed online via Visit Isle of Wight's YouTube channel.
Hello, this is Madeline,
And this is Tony.
and we're reading the second part of the Talking News. MP demands answers from PM over Lord Mandelson's security. Isle of Wight East MP Joe Robertson has pressed the Prime Minister over security concerns surrounding Lord Peter Mandelson's appointment as the UK's ambassador to the United States. During Prime Minister's questions on Monday, April the 20th, Mr Robertson questioned why Keir Starmer had not sought out a key security vetting recommendation before the appointment was confirmed. Mr Robertson told the House of Commons, "The Prime Minister has been absolutely clear that he should have been shown the recommendation of UK security vetting. He knew he hadn't seen it, so why didn't he ask for it?" The Prime Minister responded that he had not been made aware of any recommendation to deny clearance until after the appointment process had concluded. He replied, "The first I knew that there had been a recommendation to deny clearance was Tuesday evening of last week. The security clearance had been given by the Foreign Office before Peter Mandelson took up the post. As soon as it came to my attention, I sought the information, and I have put it before the House today." Mr Robertson later shared footage of the exchange on Facebook, where he was more critical of the Prime Minister's handling of the issue. He wrote, "He knew he hadn't seen it. Why didn't he ask for it? He must have known it could throw up something on the twice-sacked friend of a paedophile with a fondness for Russian money. Unsurprisingly, it did, and now the Prime Minister is blaming everyone but himself." The comments refer to Lord Mandelson's previous ministerial resignations and his widely reported past association with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Lord Mandelson has previously said he regrets any contact with Epstein. The row comes amid mounting scrutiny over how Lord Mandelson's appointment was handled. Lord Mandelson was announced as ambassador to Washington in December 2024 and granted security clearance the following month, despite UK security vetting reportedly recommending that developed vetting should not be approved. It has since emerged that the Foreign Office proceeded with the appointment regardless, a decision Mr Starmer says he only became aware of during a meeting on Tuesday, April the 14th.
Regional awards up for grabs. Island businesses are being urged to put themselves forward for this year's Beautiful South Awards for Excellence. Visit Isle of Wight is encouraging hospitality and visitor economy organisations across the island to enter the awards, which celebrate standout achievements in accommodation, attractions, food and drink, customer service and visitor experiences. Dominic Ray, Chief Executive of Visit Isle of Wight, said, "We know there are incredible businesses across the island delivering outstanding experiences every day. These awards are a fantastic opportunity to showcase that on a regional stage." Past Isle of Wight organisations recognised include East Afton Farmhouse, Lockham Hotels, Wild Heart Animal Sanctuary and the Royal Hotel. The awards are recognised as a mark of quality in the industry and can raise a business's profile and build trust with customers. Mr Ray said, "Whether you've entered before or are considering it for the first time, this is a great opportunity to regain recognition and raise your profile. A dedicated workshop will be held to help applicants prepare stronger entries, especially those new to the process. Information about entry requirements and the workshop is available on the Beautiful South Awards website."
Stylist is offering quieter haircuts for those in need. A stylist is offering quieter one-to-one appointments for people who need it, including those who are neurodiverse. Rochelle Wilson, a stylist with 20 years' experience at Hellersley Salon on High Street, Newport, is now offering different kinds of appointments to ensure going to have a haircut is an enjoyable experience. The one-to-one appointments include music being turned off, minimal other people in the salon, and photos of the premises sent before the haircut so clients know what to expect. Rochelle then offers clients to have a cup of tea to discuss what they would like from their visit to the salon. During the appointment, clients can choose to have minimal conversation and enjoy a slower pace to a haircut than experienced during a typical appointment. She said, "Coming into the salon is supposed to be an enjoyable, and a lot of my clients coming to me didn't have an enjoyable experience in the past. A lot of clients don't like change. My lived experience with SEN teaches me to ask the right questions." Rochelle is neurodiverse herself. Diagnosed with ADHD, her eldest and youngest children, Elliot and Oliver, are autistic, and daughter Isabella has Down syndrome. She uses her knowledge from her personal and professional life to provide the appointments. She said, "A salon environment is overwhelming, and it's just me taking the time to make sure that they are comfortable." Rochelle said the new kind of appointments have come naturally and provide a private space to get a haircut, something that is not always a relaxing experience for people. The quiet appointment is £45 for 90 minutes, including a wash, cut and blow dry. She said she has not come across anyone else doing appointments like hers on the island and looks forward to welcoming people to the relaxed, friendly environment of the salon on Newport High Street.
2 marathons in a week in a 53-mile challenge. A woman is taking on 2 marathons in a week as part of a challenge celebrating strength in midlife. Rachel Richards, aged 53, completed the Manchester Marathon on Sunday using a run-walk approach to conserve energy for the London Marathon just 7 days later. Her 53 at 53 challenge will see her cover a total of 53 miles across both events. Ms. Rogers said, "I made a conscious decision to pace the first marathon conservatively. I walked more than I usually would, which allowed me to enjoy the atmosphere, chat to other runners, and most importantly, finish strong, knowing I have another marathon ahead this weekend." A healthy habits coach and founder of White Ways, Ms. Richards, hopes her challenge will inspire others, especially women over 40, to push their boundaries. She said, "There's a growing shift in endurance events where participation is becoming more inclusive. You don't have to be an elite runner to take part. You can walk, jog, run. It's about finding your way to the finish line." She is currently recovering before heading to London for her second marathon. Ms. Richards said, "There is definitely some fatigue, but also a sense of momentum. London now feels like the celebration run."
Fears derelict hotel could suffer a repeat arson attack. A man who lives next to a derelict hotel, previously blighted by arson attacks, has warned it is only a matter of time before the next blaze. Peter Seeley, 87, who lives next to former Signet Hotel on Carter Street, Sandown, regularly sees younger people and adults trespassing at the building. He's calling for something to be done before it is too late. He said he has had to confront people himself, including a group of young trespassers, warning them of the dangers of what they were doing. Peter said, "Last week I saw lots of kids running in there and I yelled my head off. I said, 'Do you realise you're on private property?' I explained to them, it's a dangerous place. It's not my property, but I'm just worried about burning. This is regularly, it's happening all the time." During the interview with Peter, a couple of trespassers walked into an unsecured entrance at the rear of the hotel and exited from the front. Peter has reported the instances of trespassing to the police, who passed him on to the council, but said they are not interested at all. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary said trespassing was a civil matter and to contact the Isle of Wight Council. The county press contacted the council but had not received answers to questions at the time of going to press. Peter told the county press, "I can see it happening all again, fire, because youths are now taking control of part of the building." The Signet Hotel was subject to an arson attack on Saturday, October the 18th, 2025. A 14-year-old boy from Shanklin was arrested on suspicion of arson with intent to endanger life. He has been released without charge, but remains under investigation. Attempts have also been made to contact the owner of the Signet Hotel. Right.
Details of new waste contract. The Isle of Wight Council has stopped short of saying how much public money is being spent on its new 2-year waste contract with Veolia, despite previously saying it was putting a plan in place to significantly reduce the authority's rising waste bill. Waste and recycling services transferred to Veolia on April the 1st under an interim 2-year arrangement following the earlier termination of the council's 25-year partnership with Thalia Waste Management, formerly Amy, originally valued at around 225 million. The change came after a 3-month transition period during which Veolia provided consultancy support and helped manage the handover of services, staff and sites. When asked by the county press to confirm the cost of the new contract and whether it delivers savings, the authority did not provide a figure. Instead, it pointed to a transparency notice published on the government's Find a Tender website, which gives an estimated contract value of £60 million, including VAT, covering both the transition period and the 2-year deal, a total of 2 years, 2 months and 30 days. The council said this figure is not an intended or target cost, but a prudent estimate based on the previous contractor's published accounts and known operational requirements at the time. The notice states the main contract runs from the 1st of April 2026 to March the 31st, 2028, with a contingency option to extend the expiry date by up to 6 months. The extension is described as a backup in case there is a delay in completing the procurement process for a new long-term contract. The authority has since confirmed that the annual cost of the previous contract was higher than originally budgeted under the 2015 agreement. Thalia's contract was ended through a formal, legally binding settlement agreement, although the terms, including any financial settlement, remain confidential. Earlier this year, a council spokesman said a plan was being put into place to significantly reduce waste costs after a £6.5 million increase forecast to rise to £9 million by 2027-28 was identified as a key factor in the authority's £20 million structural deficit. In its latest statement, the Council described the Veolia deal as the first stage of that cost reduction, adding that the interim contract is designed to incentivise efficiency savings over the 2-year period. However, it has not provided figures showing how the new arrangement compares with the previous contract or how much it expects to save. The authority said it is now preparing for a new long-term waste contract which is expected to be in place by the 1st of April 2028.
Win tickets to explore the island's coastline. Discover the beauty of the Isle of Wight's southern coastline from the best vantage point, the water. We have 4 tickets to give away to one lucky reader for a trip out with Ventnor Bay Charters. The winner will scoop 4 tickets for a 1-hour sailing to be used before the end of the season. You will depart Ventnor Haven and travel west, passing Steep Hill Cove, Woody Bay, Spindle's Folly, and on to St Catherine's Lighthouse. You never know, you may even spot a dolphin or 2. To win, simply answer the following question. Where do the boat trips depart from? Send your answer with full contact details, including a phone number, to competition@iwcp.co.uk by midday on Thursday, April the 30th. A winner will be picked at random. Terms and conditions apply and can be seen at countypress.co.uk. As well as the coastal trips, the company also offers private charters for people to explore further afield.
Fire crews called on as blaze breaks out at pub. Firefighters were called to a popular pull-up in the early hours of Tuesday morning, April the 21st, after a blaze broke out in the outdoor seating area. On-call crews from Shanklin were sent to the Wheatsheaf Inn on Brading High Street shortly before 3 a.m. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service said the fire is believed to have started in a solar-powered battery light housed within a set of wood planters. The flames then spread to nearby vines and a pergola structure. Firefighters used a hose reel jet to bring the blaze under control and to prevent further damage. Ventilation fans were also used to clear light smoke that had entered the pub's bar area. The incident was resolved within an hour, with fire crews returning to the station at around 4 a.m. The County Press understands no one was injured and the damage was minor.
Fury as road closures are killing trade. A new restaurant cut off by roadworks has seen trade hit from every direction, as island businesses warn multiple road closures are strangling trade and leaving owners counting the cost. The Cockle restaurant, which opened just 10 weeks ago at Island Harbour Marina, has seen bookings fall dramatically after Fairley Road between Newport and Whippingham was shut this week. Fairley Road is closed in both directions until Friday, May the 1st, while major water and sewerage works take place, with traffic and buses diverted. At the same time, footpath 120, a well-used stretch along the Medina River between Newport and Binfield, has been closed by Island Roads for maintenance, cutting off a popular walking route, which also serves the restaurant. Sam Shaw, owner of the Cockle, said he was not informed in advance. and only learned of the closures through a staff member. I was already losing car and bus passengers. Now it's pedestrian traffic as well. Will they drain the Medina next to stop boats coming to me? Sam said the impact of the closures is being felt sharply by his and fellow businesses in the area. Since we opened, the support has been immense, but I'm now seeing a dramatic decline in bookings, he said. Financially, this has put me on the back foot as far as cash flow is concerned, in an industry already on its knees. He added that staff have also been affected, with buses unable to stop at Binfield. Sam, who also owns the Fighting Cocks in Arraton, said similar issues are affecting traders across the island. In Ryde, festival diner bar owner Nigel Smith said repeated road closures had led to a 40% drop in trade. With no consultation or communication and rising fuel and living costs, everyone is fed up, he said. Businesses feel walked all over, and the situation has become a disgrace. A spokesperson for the Isle of Wight Council said, "We do appreciate there is a high volume of roadworks currently, and we would like to thank road users, residents and businesses for their understanding." The spokesperson said the footpath closure is down to erosion. Following a recent site meeting, Isle of Wight Council teams will assess whether a temporary repair can be put in place to allow the footpath to reopen as soon as possible, while at the same time considering options for a longer-term solution.
A main thoroughfare between Wootton and Ryde is to close again for overnight repairs, only a month after it reopened following previous works. Eleanor's Grove Fishbourne is shutting on Monday, April 27th to Wednesday, April 29th, between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. It is to allow for Southern Water to carry out repairs. Eleanor's Grove also shut for a month in February for Southern Water works to replace 500 metres of ageing water mains.
Man shoves cyclists over a sea wall. A man pushed a woman in her 60s off her bicycle and over a sea wall because he thought it would be funny, a court was heard. Daniel Dickens of Avenue Road in Sandown appeared before the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on April the 16th. The 39-year-old pleaded guilty to assault occasioning actual bodily harm. Prosecutor Lauren McConnell said that around 2:50 p.m. on August the 5th last year, the woman was cycling along the sea wall on Culver Parade between Yaverland and Sandown. As she passed the bandstand, Dickens reached out and pushed her off her bike, sending her over the sea wall and onto the beach below, a fall of around 5 to 6 feet. The court heard the assault was unprovoked and happened for no reason. The woman's bike landed on top of her, and she was initially unable to move one of her legs. Emergency services attended the scene, including an air ambulance crew. The victim was taken to hospital and discharged later that night. The court heard that she was left with several injuries, including a sizable scar to her chin, a neck injury, a black eye, and an exposed kneecap. Miss McConnell said the woman has since suffered psychological harm and now wakes multiple times a week due to nightmares. Dickens was detained at the scene by a member of the public before being arrested by police. The prosecutor told the court it remains unclear why Dickens carried out the attack, although he told officers he thought it would be funny, so he did it. Dickens has 6 previous convictions for 6 offences dating back to 2008. Defending, Oscar Vincent said there had been no offending in the 13 years prior to this incident. He said his client had made a full admission to the police and expressed remorse immediately. Mr. Vincent asked the magistrates to consider ordering a pre-sentence report, acknowledging that a custodial sentence is possible. Magistrates agreed and adjourned the case for a pre-sentence report. Dickens was granted conditional bail, including a ban from the seafront between Yaverland Car Park and the far end of Shanklin Esplanade. He's due to return to court for sentencing on June the 26th.
A fundraiser has been set up after a kitchen fire destroyed everything at a house in Sandown. Fire crews from Shanklin and Sandown were called into a property on Ford Mews in Sandown at about 11:20 p.m. last Friday, April the 17th. Firefighters wearing breathing apparatus used hose reel jets to extinguish the fire. A friend of the affected residents, Joe Palin, has set up a GoFundMe page to help the family start from scratch after the smoke damage from the fire destroyed everything. She said, "On Friday, April the 17th, one of my friend's kitchens caught fire in Fort Mews, Sandown, and smoke damage has destroyed everything she had. I am absolutely devastated for her and her family. She lives with her children and 2 dogs. I am hoping to help them start again from scratch. They are currently in temporary housing until further notice. Any contributions received will be gratefully appreciated by my friend." Firefighters carried out community safety activities after extinguishing the blaze, and the stop message was received at midnight. You can donate to the fundraiser at www.gofundme.com/F/trying to help a friend after house fire lost everything. Referred. Direct.
Police praised at awards ceremony. Police officers and members of the public have been honoured for their work supporting victims and bringing offenders to justice at the Isle of Wight Area Commanders Awards. The ceremony, held at Newport Congregational Church on April the 14th, recognised acts of dedication, bravery and professionalism across the island. Among those honoured were detectives whose work helped secure an 8-year prison sentence following a rape in Newport. Detective Constables Ashley Page Butt and Daniel Cook received area commander certificates for their investigation into the 2023 offence. Their work led to the conviction of Stephen Rennie of Cypress Place in Inverness, who was sentenced this month. DC Cook was also recognised alongside independent sexual violence advisors Deborah Gearing, Judy King, Michaela Mulholland and Shanice Harris for their work on a separate case. The group supported victims and witnesses through a complex investigation, helping secure the conviction of Keith Matthews of Wootton Bridge, who was jailed for 18 years in April 2025 for multiple sexual offences against children in Ryde and East Cowes. The awards highlighted the importance of victim-focused policing, with a particular praise given to the care and reassurance provided to survivors throughout court proceedings. Chief Constable Alexis Boone said the event was an opportunity to celebrate incredible work carried out by officers, staff and the public. It is a real pleasure to hear and share stories of tenacity, victim-focused policing and unwavering dedication to our communities, he said. The ceremony was hosted by Chief Inspector Andrew MacDonald and attended by senior policing figures, including Assistant Chief Constable Tara McGovern, as well as Lord Lieutenant Susan Sheldon and High Sheriff Nigel Hartley. The evening also marked the retirement of Superintendent Rob Mitchell, who has served more than 30 years in policing, including 3 on the island. Newly appointed Superintendent Marcus Cator said he was incredibly proud of those serving island communities. He said the awards recognised those who had gone above and beyond to protect others and support vulnerable people.
A trial date has been set for a man accused of causing the death of a pensioner in a Newport High Street crash more than 3 years ago. Jordan McGee, aged 27, of College Way in East Cowes, appeared at the Isle of Wight Crown Court, where he pleaded not guilty to causing death by careless driving. The charge relates to an incident on January 16, 2023, which saw emergency services respond to a collision outside the former Carphone warehouse store. Police, paramedics and firefighters attended, with cordons put in place and the road temporarily closed. Bridget O'Hara Murray from Totland was pronounced dead at the scene. The court previously heard that Mr. McGee, who was driving a heavy goods vehicle, had stopped near to where Mrs. O'Hara Murray had parked in a disabled bay. She was fatally injured as she attempted to cross the road. At the Isle of Wight Crown Court this week, a pre-trial review was scheduled for September 11th and a trial date for January the 4th next year. The trial is expected to last between 4 and 5 days. Mr. McGee was granted unconditional bail and is not required to attend the next hearing.
Near miss leads to a road ban. A driver who nearly hit an off-duty police officer and failed to provide a specimen will be sentenced. Charlie Urry, 34, of Trinity Road in Ventnor, pleaded guilty to failing to provide a specimen for breath analysis at a hearing of the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on April the 14th. Prosecuting Giles Fletcher told the court Urry was seen by the officer on Forest Road, Newport, on Saturday, November the 14th. The officer was nearly hit by the vehicle as it came down towards him head-on, the court heard. Police attended the scene and conducted a roadside breath test, which recorded 103 micrograms of alcohol when the legal limit is 35. However, later, Urry failed to provide another specimen for analysis despite being asked multiple times to blow into the machine, the court heard. Magistrates decided to adjourn sentencing to Tuesday, June the 23rd, and ordered an all-options pre-sentence report from probation. The bench granted Urry unconditional bail and handed him an interim driving ban.
The provider behind Orchard House Care Centre has said it is deeply concerned by its damaging CQC report and acted immediately. Since the inspection, the home has come under new leadership, a spokesman for Barchester Healthcare said. The safety, well-being and dignity of our residents is always our highest priority, and we take the findings of the CQC extremely seriously, they said. A comprehensive action plan has been submitted to the CQC and is now being implemented, focusing on improving care quality, safeguarding, staffing and governance. This includes increased management presence, additional training, enhanced clinical monitoring and improvements to care planning, safeguarding processes and quality assurance systems to drive rapid and sustained improvement. The spokesman said they are focusing on embedding the required improvements at pace, working with the CQC, local partners, staff, residents and families to deliver the safe, person-centred care.
2 students named as Isle of Wight Youth MP and Deputy. 2 students have been elected as the new Isle of Wight Youth MP and Deputy. After weeks of campaigning, Lift Ride students Evie Bennett and Arthur Wrigley emerged as the top contenders in the election, which involved 4 candidates in total. The pair, who are in Year 10 and Year 8 respectively, campaigned vigorously, utilising posters, school assembly speeches and even a student podcast to engage with their peers. Once the votes were in, Evie Bennett was declared Youth MP, while Arthur Wrigley secured the position of Deputy Youth MP. In their new roles, they will represent the views of young people across the Isle of Wight and strive to make a positive impact in their communities. The announcement came just before students visited Parliament as part of a school trip, offering them a glimpse into the political world. Their school commended them for their commitment, confidence and a passion throughout the campaign process.
A man arrested following an incident with a, quote, dangerous dog has been bailed. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary was called to Orchard Street, Newport, shortly after 10 a.m. last Thursday, April the 16th. Officers received reports of an, quote, aggressive dog lunging at members of the public. It is believed the dog is a Staffian Bull Mastiff Cross. Concerns were raised that the person walking the dog was not properly in control of it, officers said. Police attended and stopped a 38-year-old man. He was subsequently arrested in suspicion of being the owner or person in charge of a dangerously out-of-control dog and possession of Class A drugs. The dog was seized by police. In an update, police confirmed the man had been bailed until July 16th. A police spokesman said it was reported that the dog had lunged at members of the public in town. We are keen to hear from anyone who experienced or witnessed this to contact the police on 101, quoting 442601769131.
£2,300 raised as man finishes his 100-mile walk. A man from East Cowes has completed a 100-mile trek in Scotland in memory of a close family friend, and raised over £2,300 for Mountbatten. Andy Hiscock finished a hike along the West Highland Highway from Glasgow to Fort William on Thursday, April the 14th, after setting off on Saturday, April the 11th. Speaking to the county press, Andy said he battled difficult conditions in the challenge, facing bad weather, but managed it all and was pretty chuffed, and that it had all been worth it. During the hike, he lost a toenail and has now got a few aches and pains, but luckily his wife booked him into a hotel to recover before travelling back down to the island. Andy raised £2,310 for Mountbatten, Isle of Wight. He completed the 100-mile walk in memory of a close family friend, Callie, who died last November, aged 43, following a battle with cancer. Before the walk, Andy said, "Callie was a family friend for years and years. I was like an uncle to her. She was only 43, and it's absolutely heart-wrenching for all of us. It's in her name. Anyone that knows her will really be missing her."
2 iconic landmarks you should go and visit. Which island landmark do you think is the most iconic? Perhaps the most photographed building is Osborne House. It is now 125 years since the death of Queen Victoria. When she was in residence, East Cowes was at the centre of the empire. Her death led to Osborne becoming a new tourist attraction, opening in 1904. Coachloads of tourists were able to visit the house for the first time. This year, a visitor to Osborne can see an exhibition about her funeral. You may think this is a sombre event to mark, but the exhibition is most interesting. The 12-foot-long diorama of the funeral procession passing East Cowes Town Hall is so full of life that even Queen Victoria would have approved, we think. She did not want a black funeral, and even left instructions that purple would be the mourning colour in the shops. Red curtains were put over the pictures and mirrors at Osborne in 1901, which has been replicated in the exhibition. On the 100th anniversary of Queen Victoria's death, 25 years ago, a lone piper played at Osborne and led followers down York Avenue to the Trinity House depot. His uniform has now been gifted to the East Cowes Heritage Centre, and where better to display it than Osborne House. However, it must go into quarantine for a couple of weeks so that wool moth is not accidentally imported into the house. Hopefully, it too will soon be part of the exhibition. The next landmark building on the list of island icons is thought to be Apley Tower at Ryde. Thanks to Natural Enterprise fundraising, it will be opened again this summer to the public.
Donations are welcomed to help with the upkeep of the building, and you will find it is £2 well spent. It was built as a folly in 1875 by the owner of Apley Towers, Sir William Hutt, as his smoking room. The Apley estate was bought in 1945 by Ryde Town Council. The mansion sold and Apley Park was created. Apley Towers Mansion was demolished in 1959. Apley Tower was closed in 2015, but recently much restoration work has been completed. Stonework repaired, a flat viewing roof and balustrade installed, and an internal staircase now gives access to the roof. Without these renovations, the Grade 2 listed tower would have fallen into disrepair. In the lower room of the tower, there are thousands of ammonites set into the walls. However, there is some debate as to whether these are real fossils or cement replicas. Are those set in the crazy paving by the door real or not? Either way, Apley Tower is worth a visit.
Do you have an Isle of Wight account? Of course you don't. I certainly don't. In 1884, W.H. Long published his dictionary of the Isle of Wight dialect, describing a treasury of insular manners and customs of 50 years ago. If I somehow met one of the quaint characters he depicts, 2 centuries of linguistic change would leave us each quite unable to understand the simplest thing the other was saying. Even today, many of us will know of someone with what we call a proper Isle of Wight accent. It is usually an older person, and often from agricultural heritage. But us? No, we've got no accents at all. Or so I once thought. Recently I've been working with devices that transcribe speech to text. Anyone who has used a so-called smart home device will be familiar with this concept. You say something, and the machine interprets your words into actions or texts. It's surprisingly effective. But imagine the challenge these machines face understanding all the various dialects and accents of English across the world. It is hard enough for us humans. When I left the South Coast some 40 years ago to go to university, I took the bold step of going to Durham, as far away from home as I possibly could, without going to Scotland, which would obviously be ridiculous. In those days, I had barely travelled round the island and Hampshire, and so when I arrived on the banks of the River Wear, I was astounded to discover a whole civilization of humans who spoke a type of English that was utterly unintelligible to me. A naive, middle-class southerner boy was hardly an unexpected phenomenon in a university town, but there were genuine instances when I was reduced to gesticulating at shopkeepers or getting bus drivers to take the coins from my hand, for all the world as if I was on holiday in some far-flung European capital. I shan't even go into the scenes when I left the gentle academic enclave at Durham and went to Newcastle. The thing that really brought this difference home to me was when my fellow students selected a nickname for me. A common enough rite of passage for kids in that situation, but a traumatic one for me. To my horror, they called me Wurzel on account of my accent. My accent? Since when did I have an accent? All those other folks are the ones with accents. And Wurzel is a word from Somerset, actually, chaps, which is miles from where I are. I think that was the moment that the penny dropped. You see, I did have an accent and still do. Everyone has an accent. Yes, even us here and now on the Isle of Wight, not just some aged rustics. And you know what reminded me of this? Working through my dictation to the machine this week, I was obliged to go through and correct all the references to that well-known local lady, Olive White.
Now from Joe Robertson, MP for the Isle of Wight East, and it's on jobs, dementia care and elections. One of my priorities is creating opportunities for islanders of all ages and stages in their working life. That is why I hosted a jobs and careers fair in Sandown last week, to give people the chance to speak directly with local employers, industry groups and training providers, including the NHS, Police, Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce, Visit Isle of Wight and the Isle of Wight College. I was pleased to see so many inspiring conversations taking place, including qualified nurses looking to return to work after a career break. We know we have a particular shortage of key workers on the island, so it was great to be able to help those conversations take place. I was recently appointed as a commissioner to the Centre for Social Justice think tank's Midlife Commission, which is aiming to get more people in midlife back into the workplace. There are now over 2 million people of working age in receipt of out-of-work benefits. Many want to work, but are lacking the retraining opportunities or support more readily available to young people looking for their first job. That is why I wanted to ensure this event appropriately covered all ages. Following the positive feedback, I hope to do a similar event in the future, and my thanks go to all those who attended. Prior to my being elected as an MP, I worked for Dementia UK and saw firsthand the impact which Admiral nurses had on the lives of those impacted by dementia. Dementia has become the biggest cause of death in the UK, and I know how tough it can be for families. Together with local campaigner Sally Grills, I hosted a dementia question and answer event with a panel including Chief Admiral Nurse Hilda Hayo, Chair of Dementia UK, and Health Watch England Professor David Croysdale Appleby, and Executive Manager of Parkland's Dementia Resource Centre Donna White. The session was well attended, with input from audience members and the opportunity to speak to the panel members following the Q&A. As the Isle of Wight Council local elections approach, candidate literature is starting to arrive through the doors. Taking place on May the 7th, these elections come at a time of great uncertainty and a time when the local authority are struggling financially. I am backing local Conservative candidates who will provide the strong leadership that our council so desperately needs. But whoever you vote for, please cast your vote for candidates who are focused on our island. Our local elections are not about who governs Britain or who wants to be the next Prime Minister. They are about securing our island's future for the next generation.
Right, a forthcoming event on Sunday the 26th of April is the Vintage Motorcycle Club Classic Bike Show at 10 o'clock in the morning. Vintage and classic motorbikes on display over 25 years old at the Island Riding Centre, Staplers Road, Newport. There is a telephone number you can ring, which is 0775 1166 992.
Wolverton Folk and Blues Fair takes place at 11:30 a.m. on May the 9th, a one-day festival of folk and blues music over 2 stages set in the beautiful grounds of Wolverton Manor, Pound Lane, Shorewell, and it's costs £14 entry.
Friday the 1st of May, there is a jigsaw puzzle display and sale at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's described as a jigsaw puzzle display and sale. Also on Saturday, May the 2nd, at the Parish Church of St Saviour on the Cliff, Queen's Road, Shanklin. There's a telephone number 07896 711 453.
And now some letters to the editor. Go out to vote from Bob Blezard in Sandown. On May the 7th there will be elections on the island, and I am predicting a landslide which will not serve the interests of democracy. A landslide will not be for a particular party. It will be made up of the around 2/3 of voters who do not turn out to vote. The greatest danger to democracy is apathy. Over the past year there have been 5 by-elections on the island, including 2 in Lake, where in both cases more than 7 out of 10 voters chose not to exercise their democratic right. In both cases a Reform councillor was elected with the support of slightly over 10% of the total electorate. Whilst the by-election results did not materially affect the control of the council, the all-out elections on May the 7th most certainly will. A high turnout will be the best way to deliver a council which is as representative as it can be under the constraints of the first past the post electoral system. Voter turnout does matter, and the best example I can offer comes not locally but from the recent parliamentary election in Hungary. The country had been run for 16 years by a far-right government, exercising an increasing control over the judiciary and the media. It was swept away with a landslide victory for the opposition. Crucially, the turnout was key to this. It was 79.6%, the highest it has been at any of the 10 general elections since the end of communism. The lesson is a simple one. If you want to have a positive effect on how your council is run for the next 3 years, go out to vote on May the 7th.
Sam Turner of Sandown writes, second-class Royal Mail letters no longer work. I wonder if anyone else has noticed how bad the Royal Mail service is since being taken over by a Czech billionaire who has done nothing but destroy the service since. In my case, second-class letters now take 2 to 3 weeks to be delivered, where I now get batches of second-class letters delivered once a month, sometimes as many as 10 or more in one go. What it has done for me is that my medical appointment letters now arrive a few days or even a week after the medical appointment has been and gone. Birthday cards also arrive well after the event. So what's the point of second-class letters with Royal Mail? And in this respect, why do they still retain the word royal? As a foreign-owned company, the royal title should be relinquished anyway. Total disgrace and waste of time and money.
Old method from Jim Gibbons of Waterlooville. Every day we read of shops losing shelves full of goods to shoplifters. Anyone who is as old as I am, don't ask, can recall that shops look very different from what they do now. The customer was not allowed within touching distance of the goods, which were in glass cases, on shelves behind the counter, or in storerooms at the back of the shop. The customer asked the shop assistant, more numerous then, for an item, and the assistant produced the goods. This certainly required more shop assistants than now, and the shopkeeper paid the price then, and is paying the price in a different way today. Perhaps we should go back to that old method. Those extra assistants were not highly paid, but were working, paying taxes, and on a career path. Today's equivalents are unemployed. The government should reduce the taxes on workers and reduce the incentive for not working. Another recollection from the 1950s. I and millions of others were required to join the armed forces under national service regulations. I would like to see politicians stating that illegal immigrants would be required to work some years for the benefit of the country they wish to join.
Betty Buchanan of Newport recalls, when I moved to the island in 1976, there were 4 wards consisting of approximately 120 beds for the elderly at Whitecroft Hospital. These beds were reduced to 48 with the closure of Whitecroft and the opening of Halbury Lodge in Newport and Shackleton House in Ryde, 2 purpose-built units for people suffering with dementia. These beds were then reduced to 24 when Halbury Lodge was changed to care for elderly people suffering from depression. In those 24 beds at Shackleton House, we cared for a minimum of 64 people at any one time. We were able to do this with day care, night care, respite care, and long-term care. Care reflected the total physical, emotional, psychological and social needs of each person. To accommodate these needs required recognition that each individual resident had a right to an identity of his or her own. He or she was entitled to self-esteem, affection, independence, privacy, family relationships, and a right to die with dignity. Long-term care for a resident meant that Shackleton House was their home and would be for the rest of their life. Relatives were actively encouraged to feel the same. Respite care enabled husbands, wives or families to continue caring for their loved ones for much, much longer with the knowledge they would have regular breaks. Now they have nothing, and caring eventually becomes too much of a burden. We had an occupational therapist and an occupational room where cooking, art and so on was available to all patients. In the summer they helped with planting the hanging baskets and plant pots. We also had a minibus where we were able to take the more able patients out for trips. All our patients were treated with love, care and individuality. What have they got now? Nothing. I went to a meeting at St Mary's about 2015 when Shackleton House was closed. I asked why and was told it would have cost too much to refurbish a unit that had only built some 30 years earlier. It was then refurbished as a health centre for Ryde, and instead 7 beds were opened up at St Mary's Shackleton wards for patients with dementia. These beds were then reduced to 4 and then the ward closed for refurbishment. Now St Mary's is in a dire state, in need of beds, with many patients unable to be discharged because there is nowhere for them to go. Things I have seen happen there would never have happened if Shackleton House was still open, and these poor people wouldn't be in St Mary's labelled bed blockers. Too much money has been taken from the nurse/medical budget, while the non-nursing/non-medical budget has been increased dramatically. The other problems with lack of nurses is making the nurse training a degree course. Neither I nor my dear husband would have been able to become trained with a large bill owing at the end of it, or all the travelling to the mainland. We went into nursing care for people not to have a degree.
And that's all we have time for today. So it's goodbye from Madeline.
And goodbye from Tony.
Hello. However upbeat we try to be on In Touch about visual impairment, losing your sight is clearly going to be a pretty traumatic business. And I guess everybody has to find their own way of coping with it. In Roderick Dungate's case, that has involved writing a play about it, Seeing with My Dog. Natural enough, when it started to happen during COVID, he was a theatre director, facing not only the loss of sight, but the loss of his livelihood. But the play, on in Birmingham this week, is far from depressing, much humour mixed with coming to terms with the things that are going to have to change. Well, we'll be talking to Rod both about the play itself and the attempts to make it fully accessible to visually impaired theatre goers later in the programme. But first, our reporter Bethan Langford has been along to rehearsals for us.
Thanks, Peter. Yes, last Friday I was fortunate enough to be invited to the last day of studio rehearsals for Seeing with My Dog. Not only did I meet the creative team and cast, but I had the pleasure of meeting the wonderful Dixon, Rod Dungate, the playwright's guide dog. I must say the atmosphere of the rehearsal room was really special with the added presence of a dog. I've actually selected a small bit of audio from the rehearsals where the actor's energy inspired Dixon to get up and join in.
Can I play with you? Haven't seen you before. Just moved here. Nice park.
Esmeralda, come here, away from the mud.
Take no notice again. I never do. Are you up for running with the
There are 4 cast members who switch roles throughout. The central character of Oliver, played by Giles Abbott, who I find truly magnetic, by the way, is based on Rod. I had some wonderful conversations with Rod, who now, somewhat reluctantly, has agreed that the play is autobiographical. Rod told me that the play is not only about coming to terms with his sight loss, but learning the new and complex skill of using a guide dog. I'm sure many listeners and guide dog users will agree that it's about building that deep trust with the dog, which is difficult and takes a lot of time and work. So with this in mind, the dogs literally take centre stage as they're characterised by the actors. And this leads to some really insightful and funny moments, like in this extract we're going to hear now. Oliver meets his dog Jason for the first time, and Jason makes a quick assessment of his new owner and home. You may hear some bells jangling in this clip. The actors wear bells around their necks to signify when they're playing a dog.
Oh, look! Left into a cosy conservatory. Light and airy, gorgeous French windows, nice rug, great for sunbedding. Back down, through the living room, reach home. Oh, cosy carpets for scratching my feet on here.
What I really like about the production is that the team have made a choice not to use any props or scenery, and they rely solely upon the energy of the actors, the script, and some digital audio. And this feels like, to me, like it's putting every audience member on an equal footing, sighted and blind alike. So everyone has to use the power of their imagination through the storytelling. One of the actors, Lee Farrell, who is himself visually impaired, has the unusual task of playing the invisible chimp who sits on Oliver's shoulder. Some of you may be familiar with the chimp paradox, the chimp representing the parts of our mind that we are not in control of. So the audience get a real unique insight into Oliver's psyche. And Oliver often has moments where he talks in soliloquy directly to the audience. We hear one of these in the next extract. Oliver has woken from a nightmare and the reality of his situation is fully hitting him.
There are good days and bad days. Bad days when you walk without thinking across a quiet street, when you miss the bus stop. The worst of these for me is when Jason's distracted. A lady dog, a cat hissing and arching its back, a trip, a stumble, a static car, pavement parked, an electric scooter, a pile of rubbish, pavement dumped. Blinding flashes of non-comprehension.
I think this is a fitting time to have a chat with the man himself, Roderick. What do you think, Peter?
Yes, well, indeed, joining us is Roderick Dungate, both author and co-director of the play. First of all, I mean, I'd like to know what made you write it.
It sort of came about almost by accident. I talked to a friend of mine and I said to him, I'm thinking about trying to get on the guide dog list. And he said to me, you should keep a diary, because we knew it was quite a long event, trying to get on the list and so on. But I kept the diary as a series of connected poems, and they were really personal. So I sent it out to a couple of friends to see whether they were any good or not. One of them gave me feedback as if he'd been reading a play. So at that point, I thought, perhaps it might make a play, and sort of moved on from there, really.
How sudden was this for you, Roderick, your loss of sight?
It's always hard to answer that because you deny it's happening for a long time. And looking back, I was probably losing my sight for 5 years before I'd even admit that it was happening. And, when I first got the guide dog, one of the questions they ask you is, what sort of vision do you have? Do you have useful vision? And the answer was, at that stage, that would have been January 22. Yes, I have useful vision. But now I'd be saying I probably don't have very good vision at all.
Right. Now, humour does play a big part in this play, and a lot of blind people do use humour to deal with talking about the situation. How important is it to you, and why do you think we as a group do it so much?
I do remember hearing someone once on one of your programmes, talking about when you make a mistake, pick up the wrong bit of food or drop, and she just said, you just end up laughing about it. And I thought that was a really important lesson to learn. But the other thing, of course, in the play that makes it funny is the attitudes of the dogs, because all the actors play dogs at different times. And the dogs, I'm trying to talk from the dog's point of view as well.
Down through the living room, a lot of posh art. Must be an arty-farty type. Lot of them about. Galley kitchen, very smart.
I was going to pick that up because there is quite a lot of gentle leg pulling about guide dog training and the relationship between dog owner and organisation. I mean, there is some issue, isn't there, about who really is calling the shots, you, the trainer, or the dog?
Yeah, I mean, it is a partnership, you know, and I had a terrific trainer called Karen, and, you know, they have this mixture of having to have authority, but humour as well. So literally, when you're training, she would be walking along and she'd be saying, sweeten those arms, you know, pick those feet up. And I eventually did start saying, yes, miss, no, miss. I mean, the truth is, learning to work with a guide dog, it's very intense. I found it very hard. You're having to put yourself into the paws of a dog. You know, when people knew I was writing this play and they're going to be dogs, they said, oh, are you using puppets? Why aren't you using puppets? And it's because the relationship between the dog and the partner is more like a bond between two people. And I wanted to give voice to that as well, so that the only way you can do it is have the dogs talking. But that gave me all sorts of other problems as well, which hopefully we've solved in the play, because the dog can't talk to the human beings.
Can I ask you a serious point, really? How challenging has it been to direct a play since your loss of sight? Because surely a lot of the decisions you have to make as a director are about seeing what doesn't work. And I mean, seeing.
Yeah, I mean, ever since I was 12, my life has revolved around theatre and performance. Everything I did was seeing things in the theatre. And when my sight got so poor, I just thought everything stopped. I'd never be able to do this again. And then was in touch with Extant, who gave me support and lots of information.
That's a drama group, of course, for visually impaired people, Extant. Yeah.
That's right, including the possibility of directing. Now, my view at the moment, having worked on this and other plays, is that I could no longer direct a play on my own. And that's simply because I can't see the things the actors are doing. But Joe and I have known each other 30 odd years, so we can work really closely together. But the other thing then is that you can't confuse actors when you're in the rehearsal space. They've got to know who they're listening to, who's talking to them. So Joe and I have also had to make it very, very clear who is speaking at which point. But just to repeat, I don't think I could direct a play absolutely on my own because I would miss too much.
Could you perhaps say a bit more about this idea of making the play accessible to visually impaired people by trying to incorporate what would have been audio description into the dialogue? I mean, how does that work?
So, for instance, the play moves very freely from scene to scene. So at the beginning of a scene, the characters will nearly always mention the other characters' names so that you know who's in the scene. We use, I think it's quite an elaborate soundscape which feeds in the background for the scene. So, for instance, sometimes we might be in a street, sometimes in a park. You also use the dialogue to indicate where you are as well. So we tried to do all of those things. I think you already mentioned that the dogs have bells when they're being a dog. What I've found really interesting is that, first of all, I can hear they're a dog moving about because they've got a bell, but I can also hear them footstepping on the surface because it's quite an intimate performance space. And if they're doing the sort of the snort that a dog does, you know, in excitement, when they sort of go like that, I can hear him do that. So we can hear all sorts of things that the dogs are doing
Is there any danger that in trying to do everything with words that you might have done with audio description, that you maybe kind of over elaborate it for the rest of the audience who are not really used to that kind of way of dealing with it, are they?
I don't think that's true. And I might be hoisted by my own petard with that one, but I don't think that's true. It might be important to add a level of audio description. I haven't quite come to the conclusion yet, but that's what this is about. It's trying to see how far we can go. What happens is you're a writer, you sit and write the script, and I think in my head, oh, that'd be really good, that'd be good. The actors get a hold of it, the director, designer, all those others, they all get a hold of it, and they often take it somewhere else. And you go, oh my God, did I really write this? You know, it is just the most unbelievably exciting experience. And I just hope some of that excitement comes across to the audience as well.
Rod Dungate, thank you very much. Bethan Langford, still there listening patiently. Just some final impressions?
Yes, thanks. I won't give any spoilers away, but I left the room last week wanting more. It's a really unique, sometimes heartbreaking, yet very funny show. And I was on my way home looking up how to get tickets for it. So I think that speaks for itself, really.
And there's a chance for people still to make their own judgment about the play. Shows on Wednesday and Thursday at the Sense Touch-Based Centre, that's in Selly Oak. And then shows at the Crescent Theatre, Birmingham. 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, matinee and evening. Just before we go, a reminder that in a few weeks' time, we're going to be putting questions to the RNIB's relatively new CEO, Simon Antrobus. Now, we certainly have questions of our own for him, but we'd very much like as many as possible of those to come from you, whether they're about services or the financial state of the RNIB, what its priorities are. The floor is yours. You can suggest your questions by emailing in touch at bbc.co.uk or by leaving them in a voice message on 0161 836 1338. From me, Peter White, and producer Beth Hemmings, goodbye.
Scaffolding and Skips news for the week commencing the 27th of April 2026.
Newport area, 8 Albert Street, Lichfield House, Union Street, Halifax, 114 to 116 High Street, and St James Street. Newport area skips, 6 South View, 5 Bank Cottages, Warlands Lane, Shelfleet.
In the Ryde area, 141 High Street, 10 and 11 High Street, 77 George Street, Morrison's Daily, Union Street. In the Ryde area skips, 59 High Street, Bembridge.
Cowes and East Cowes area, 106 High Street, 15 to 16 Market Hill. Cowes area skips, 50 Fellows Road, 29 Elm Grove.
In the Ventnor area, Ventnor Youth Centre, Victoria Street.
Sandown area, 52 Fitzroy Street. Alveston Farmhouse, Main Road, Alveston. Sandown area skips, 29 Alfred Road, Lake.